This is Sad Boy Radio.
Take pride in living it meek, inherit the earth, inherently worth more than you'll ever see.
Alright, welcome back, guys. Today I got my boy Arigon. Let's go ahead and give him a little introduction, let them know, bro. Who are you?
Well, I go by the name of Arigon. That's Arigon. And I'm a rapper / singer / just all-around performer from Chicago, Illinois. And recently dropped a mixtape called State of Mind 121 on all music streaming platforms. Apple Music, Spotify, SoundCloud, everywhere you could hear music is on there. Also, I guess you can follow me on my Instagram page at Arigon121, UnitedMaster.com/Arigon, but I don't know. I don't really know.
What's that 121 stand for, bro? I actually never asked you.
121, man, there's such a deep meaning to that I won't go into. There's a lot about numerology into there, but basically the main thing is balance. So 11 it's a powerful prophetic number, and so the 2 signifies the balance between the 2 ones. But I won't go too deep into that. But yeah, it just means a lot to me.
Nah, it's definitely a part of you, right?
Yeah.
So just understanding where you come from and all of that is really important, right? Especially when you're thinking about the purpose that you serve on this earth, right? The purpose of life. That's what we're going to talk about today, actually. Really, let's start with what you believe is the purpose of life, right? There's so much that goes into it, and you've talked about it a couple times in your songs. So,
man, the purpose of life, that's such a hard question to answer, because the more that I think about it, the more that I'm asked about it, or just any conversation that I have, I feel like the answer kind of changes a little bit, because we're forever learning as humans. But there's one thing that I would always say back in the day when I was younger, and it still sticks with me too. It's about the L's, you know what I mean? Live, laugh, love, and learn. Just live this shit, laugh along the way, love as much as you can, show love as much as you can, and learn from everything you go through. And that's pretty much life in a nutshell, I think.
And where'd you get that ideology,
Well, I feel like we all have heard the live, laugh, learn, live, laugh, love type thing, just live, laugh, love. But I felt I don't even know where I got the learn from. It was just more of just in deep thought, just sitting here and just realizing how we all just have to just learn from everything. Everything is a lesson. There's no such thing as coincidence. If life is hard, there's something you need to be learning at that moment. The shit, if you keep not learning, it's just gonna continue to get harder. And I feel like we could all kind of relate to that. So yeah, I don't know, just something I stick to this day. Just live, laugh, love, and learn. Don't forget to learn.
It's funny you say that, right? Because there's no real manual to life, right? Nobody hands you a booklet when you are born and say, hey, this is what you're going to learn.
Yeah.
And it's tough. A lot of the times it's tough to think about, what do I want to do in life? Where am I going from here? Especially for me, I'm about to graduate. It's all right, I'm 21. What do I do next? Especially because I'm majoring in psychology, right? I've always liked to understand where people come from. I like to understand their mentality. It's kind of the basis behind this podcast, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of the times we're talking about coping mechanisms. We're talking about where we come from, how our ideals began, right? And for me, I just feel like you got to keep it moving in life, right? Everything happens for a reason, and we don't really understand it. How do you understand why someone did you dirty? Someone stabbed you in the back. How do you understand why someone is dying? Those type of things, they're just not understandable for me sometimes. Right. Understanding people and what drives them, right? What motives do people have? For you, you make music, so what was the motivation behind that, man?
Shit, well, for me, the motivation behind music, it's a lot. Music's just always been in my life. It's just always been an outlet for me. I used to play trumpet when I was younger. I was always a dancer back in the day. I used to DJ a little bit. But there was always, music there that would speak to me in a way that, was therapeutic, in a way that kind of let me know that the artist was kind of going through similar situations as me. And there were some songs that I heard you would hear, and it's just damn, this nigga's watching my life. What the fuck? One artist off the bat I would say is J. Cole. There's so many of his songs, so many of his albums that are just I sit there and like I felt like as he was dropping them, I was like living out the experiences that he was like talking about, and it was just like, what the fuck, this is crazy. But it's crazy how much I grew from listening to that music. For me, like when I was younger, I was kind of gifted at poetry, and so eventually I kind of just started making music for fun. But I felt like I was having conversations, or I was coming to certain understandings about life that certain people around me weren't either having the same conversations or weren't coming to the same understandings. So for me, like, music was my chance to be a J. Cole for somebody else type thing. So it's like, I'm going to put what I'm learning, what I'm feeling, the experiences I'm going through. So one, whoever hears my music will know that they're not alone if they feel the same way. You know what I mean? And two, they'll get, my perspective. Not saying that my perspective is the best or anything like that, but they'll get my perspective, hopefully. And hopefully they'll see the growth that I'm going through, that I'm speaking to, and maybe feel the same way or get some growth out of it, get some therapy out of it. So it was really, music for me is like an extension of the conversations that I can have one-on-one. Because I could talk one-on-one with you all day. I could talk one-on-one with everybody. But, you know what I mean? There's a lot of people that are, listening to my music right now that's just like, I'm not there, but yet I'm still having a conversation with them. So that's really like the main motivating factor. And also just to motivate people around me to do something different. Because, like, music ain't for everybody, you know what I mean? And it's like people are scared to, like, have outlets or do certain different things, drive themselves in different ways. So it's like, to see somebody like me, just, regular person that every day, actually doing something, pursuing something, doing something different and putting some feeling into it, putting some emotion, it's like, I should probably do something. I could do something like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's one motive behind that. Like, I would hope that I could inspire other people to just do different shit and not give up just because of their certain specific circumstances that they have in the moment.
Yeah. And just like you mentioned, having an emotional outlet, right, is definitely essential for everybody, right? Yep. There's so many different forms, whether that's through art of any kind, drawing, painting, music, even this podcast, right? Yeah. This is another outlet for people to come and have a one-on-one conversation about the shit they're going through, right? Because sometimes you just want to feel heard. And to that point, a lot of the times when I do listen back to your music, I find myself relating. One song that I think about a lot of the time is Letting Go, right? On that song, you're talking about just letting go of everything. Mm-hmm. I think back to one day I was just sitting in my car, and I'm thinking about all the things that are stressing me out, all the little things, and I'm like, man, just let go. And it helped in the end because I started cutting off the people that were just bringing on negative energy, bringing on another added weight every day to an already stressful life, right? People have things that they need to finish. People have goals that they want to attain. And when you're being stopped by somebody telling you, oh, just wait, or oh, you can do it later. Like, no, I got to go and get it now. Even in the song Feeling on Fire, you say it again, right? You're having a conversation with God, and he told you the weight that you hold in your soul, just let it go, right?
Yes, sir.
So for you, what keeps on pushing that? What's the ideology behind that, right? Because obviously you feel something in your soul mm-hmm. that you just gotta let go of.
So it's just a fight, man. Then I feel like that's another meaning of life. It's to fight. Like, you're always gonna be tested throughout this whole thing. You're always gonna make mistakes. I mean, everybody's gonna have a situation where they're the dumbass in the room. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of just inescapable in life. But it's like, you have to let all those little things and all those experiences go, you know what I mean? Because there's so many people that, they stay stuck, crying about the past or looking at their past decisions or whatever, and then they're worried about the future and how who they were here is why they won't be who they want to be here, and they don't focus on the present. You don't know how many people are, in the room, they'll look at you in the eye, you know what I mean, and not hear anything coming out of your mouth because they're just in their own head rambling and just listening to their own thoughts and hanging on to whatever the hell happened to them yesterday. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, you gotta let that shit go. You have to. All you have is this present moment. All you have is these 24 hours. I mean, yesterday was what it was, and tomorrow will be what it be. You know what I mean? But if you're not here in the present, today, mind, body, and soul focused on what you're doing, yeah, you're always going to repeat those same cycles. That's why I tie it back to, like, live, laugh, love, and learn. You got to learn from all the bullshit. Don't cry about it. Don't fucking sit there and think that's just always going to be you. Don't fucking sit there and think you can't overcome those situations. Learn why you went through that shit. Yeah. And if it's not about you and it's a generational curse and it's about you, then all right, cool, break the generational curse. But you have to sit there in that self-reflection and be present, not hanging on to it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where that let it go comes from.
And you talk about a lot about generational curses, right? For you, you know, what exactly does that mean? Like, define what a generational curse is, right?
Generational curse is just anything passed down from your family throughout the generations. I mean, and it wouldn't just necessarily be your family. It could just be, you know what I mean, like your ethnicity or whatever. Certain circumstances everybody's dealt. You know what I mean? And it's gonna go forward. I mean, if you're coming up with broke parents, I mean, obviously you're gonna come up kind of broke, and you know what I mean. You're not gonna know how to manage money the right way because your parents ain't never seen money, type deal. So you know what I mean. So that right there is a generational curse because you're going off without the knowledge of money, just to stay on that example. Or it could be mental illness. Like, there's so many people in different, you know, communities that are just like undiagnosed with like mental health issues or something like that, and people are just go on with it like, oh no, that's just dumb, and then they have a kid that's just like them, and then they have a kid that's just like them, and they don't even know until somebody opens up about a conversation like, what the fuck, why are we all like this type thing.
Yeah, until somebody goes and seeks out the answer, right?
Exactly.
You know, why do I feel like this? Why do I feel this added pressure? You know, a lot of times for me, it feels like every day I have this anxiety. I'm like, how do I get rid of it, right? Nothing seems to work. Like, every day is just, okay, my anxiety's here. All right, I'm going to sleep. My anxiety's here the next day, I'm going to sleep. Like, there's no fix to it unless you seek out a fix, right? Yeah. That shit is really fucking annoying.
Yeah, but the thing is, there really is no fix to it in general. You know what I mean? That's the constant fight. That's like, you got to wake up to fight. Whether it's somebody else telling you can't do some shit or it's yourself telling you can't do it. Whether it's the person in the mirror mainly. Yeah. So you got to fight it. You got to fight the feeling of anxiety. It's always going to be there. If you go on stage, you're going to be nervous. You got to fight the nerves to perform. Yeah. That's life.
It's so much harder when you're older, too, because you understand it more. Like, when I was younger, I don't remember ever feeling so anxious all the time. I probably did, but I didn't understand what the feeling was, right? Now I understand, oh, it's anxiety. All right, well, fuck, I got to deal with it. And that shit fucking sucks. But moving back to the conversation, right? Moving back to the purpose of life, right? For you creating art, you're kind of leaving behind a legacy, right? And that's, to me, what the purpose of life is, kind of, right? You're meant to learn, pass down your knowledge, and leave behind a legacy that is known. That's the main reason why I like to create, right? Mm-hmm. It's also like, man, you can impact so many other people in life. Just like you said earlier, you can have a conversation with them through music. So leaving behind a legacy that somebody else will, you know, remember. It's just like the movie Coco, right? Once you're forgotten, you're forgotten. Like, you just go to, I don't know what world they call it, but you're just left behind and you're forgotten. Yeah. You know, nobody wants to feel like that. For me, it's like, all right, I want people to remember who I was. I want to be in history books because I want to make that big of an impact on somebody, on the world, if possible, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing, too, that you can't lose sight of, I feel, like, as an artist. Like, you can't get so caught up in trying to impact those people, in leaving that legacy, because there's no telling if you'll truly be appreciated the way that you should be, whatever legacy you leave behind. You know what I mean? I can make the greatest music in the fucking world. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean people are going to listen to it. Doesn't mean I'm going to be remembered by it. You know what I mean? The main thing you got to realize is you're doing it for you, because there's one person in this movie, you know what I mean? Everybody else is a side character. So it's like, that art, you have to make sure that you're doing it for your best interest, for like the representation of you. And at the end of the day, you'll inspire those people by how much you were just yourself. Like, look at Prince, you know what I mean? Prince, whatever. You know what I mean? You can talk shit about how the man dressed, what he did, whatever, but it's like anybody who had a real conversation with him, not that I never had it, but from what I hear, everybody's had a real conversation with him. He was a real dude. He was a dude that would put people on game. You know what I mean? As far as, like, owning masters, as far as, like, just the business, as far as, like, just owning himself, owning his presence. He was still out here getting any girl he wanted. He was still out here doing his thing, dressed how he wanted. And it's like, man, that's a man that has more confidence than anybody. You know what I mean? Type thing. And this is, like, you have to inspire and leave that legacy by just being you in your purest, most authentic form, I feel.
Yeah. And, going off of that, like you said, eventually people will kind of forget, right? They're either going to remember you for who you were, or they'll go ahead and forget a lot of the stuff. I think about Drake's interview that one time where he talks about the 72-hour rule, right? Are you familiar with it?
The 72-hour? No, I'm not.
72-hour rule. Drake talks about how his mom told him, give it 72 hours. If you're still, upset about it, if it still bothers you, then go ahead and address it. It's like when anything controversial happens, since he's famous, right? And he talks about it. It's like, okay, after one day, if you'll still be upset about it, it'll bother you. You're gonna live. You're gonna keep going. Second day, it'll still bother you a little bit, but it's still moving forward. By the third day, somebody else did something and it's forgotten. Just when you think about that, it's a life lesson that's so important, right? Yeah. Because a lot of people make decisions off of emotion. They make decisions that a lot of the time are not the best, right? That are going to get them in trouble. So learning how to control it, just like you said, the L's, live, laugh, love, and learn, right? Learn from the mistakes. You're probably going to make the mistake of blowing up and being mad about something once. So, hey, if you're listening, think about the 72-hour rule, right?
No, that's a good tip.
Yeah.
And also, those emotional decisions, that ties back to the point that I was making too, with the whole focusing on the past, worrying about the present, the future, and not being in the present. It's like you'll be so worried about the past and what happened in the past that the emotion that you have tied to that makes you make that emotional decision in the present, because you're not fully present. You're stuck to those emotions of the past. That's the shit you gotta let go of, the emotional shit. And then just be in the present, so that way you don't make those emotional decisions and you make a present decision that hopefully you won't be disappointed with.
And what's most important is the progression that you're making from that, right? Making sure that you're moving towards your ultimate goal. Because when you're, like you said, when you're caught up on the past, when you're focused on all the bad, how are you even supposed to move forward?
Can't. You're going to keep cycling through.
Toxic relationships. And you can't have that for yourself, right? You gotta, you only have yourself in reality.
Truth.
Somebody's gonna stab you in the back. The top is lonely, but you got the people you came up with, at least, I'd hope. But you never know people's true intentions, right?
Yeah.
An artist that loves to be alone, loves it, is August Alsina. That's because he's been through so much in life, right? How do you deal with, for you personally, how do you deal with all that hardship?
Me?
You talk about it. You talk about the traumas.
That's how I do it. I talk about it. I keep the conversation open. And, first thing is, accepting it. Like I said, it takes a lot of self-reflection. You got to accept everything, you go through, and everything, deal with. But, I don't know, for me, it's just keeping one is music, obviously, because I pour a lot of that into it. But conversations like this. I don't shy away from any type of conversations. And if I can relate to the person, I'm going to sit there and say, a personal thing to relate. You know what I mean? If you're going through something and I feel like I have a situation that could kind of relate to that, I have no filter. I have no type of fucking insecurity about sitting there and sharing that with you. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you're getting something out of it, knowing you're not alone. And me, I'm getting that therapy of not being scared to talk about it. You know what I mean? Just fucking sitting there and just, in that moment, I'm still owning my insecurity. So I feel even stronger in the moment by telling you something I'm insecure about. So it's keeping the conversation open and just finding your outlets, whether it's meditation, whether it's writing poetry, writing music, painting, podcasts, whatever it is, find your outlet.
It's really those moments where you're self-reflecting, right? Where you truly understand who you are. Like I said, August Alsina loves to be alone. Back in 2014, I believe it was, he released an album called This Thing Called Life, where he talks about every single thing that bothers him in life, kind of, right? Yeah, he loves being alone, right? But it's because of his bad experiences with people. In the song Hollywood, he talks about how people say he's Hollywood now because he's blowing up. He's got the record deal. He's making money, right? And they're telling him, oh, you owe us. Like, what do I owe you for? You're not the one going through these traumas and making the music. You're not the one putting me on. Like, I found a record label. His brother actually sold his laptop for drug money when he was making videos for YouTube. So then he stopped making music, and eventually, it's a long story, man. But I just think about August Alsina and how that album, he poured his heart and soul into it, right? And he would talk about how his kind of therapy was the music, but also he had a black room, fully black, curtains were black, everything. So when he went to sleep, it was pitch black, couldn't see. And I think about that, right? It's, who are you when you're alone? Who are you when you're in a space like that, where you just sit and think? You know, like I said, you meditate, right?
Yeah.
So kind of talk about it, reflect on it, and how it helps you. Who do you think you are when you're alone?
Who do I think I am when I'm alone? That's a good question. Probably not the most productive person that I should be. But as far as like sitting there alone and meditating, I would say that definitely helps with anxiety and like stress, and just being able to silence your thoughts. It helps you let go. You know what I mean? Because you're forced. You are just you and you. You're sitting there. You know what I mean? Eyes closed. Well, for me, because I'll just relate it to me. Like, you know, when you sit there and you fucking meditate, you sit there, you close your eyes, and you just focus on your breath. You're breathing and just try to silence all the thoughts. And you'll hear random shit in the background, you know, you hear everything. Your mind will start thinking about I'm hungry right now or whatever the hell. But it's like really just focusing and being able to silence your thoughts. It gives you the control and the power over it, you know what I mean? Not saying I'm the best at meditating or anything like that. It's just focusing on your breathing, focusing on your thoughts, and just detaching from whatever the hell's bothering you, you know what I mean? Sometimes you feel enraged, like sometimes I'll be pissed, I'll be anxious, sit there ready to throw a fit, and it's just like, man, breathe, calm down. What is this about? What's bothering you? You know what I mean? I'm able to tap back into that meditation because it's practice, you know what I mean? I do that when I'm alone, so in the moment, if somebody says something that's gonna flip me off, yeah, I'll probably still get that trigger, but it's like, remember your meditation, remember, you know what I mean? Calm down, breathe right now. What are you really thinking? What really bothered you? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's just being able to train your mind to gather your thoughts and know what you should be focusing on right now, instead of the negative thoughts that'll keep cycling in when you don't have control of your mind. You know
I don't, life's this thing called life, bro.
Yeah.
It really forces you to seclude yourself. A lot of the music that I find myself relating to is, you know, when you're in solitude, when you're by yourself thinking. Yeah. And that's a question I always think about, right? Who are you when you're alone? I wouldn't say I'm the best person. I wouldn't say I'm the nicest person. Am I a bad person? No. But, you know, in some people's minds, you know, maybe I wasn't the best. Mm-hmm. And overcoming that, right? Overcoming the idea that, man, I probably hurt somebody. It's like, you got to be, I wouldn't say necessarily okay with it, but you got to be okay with who you are as a person, right? To really understand who you are and where you are mentally. I don't know if that sentence makes sense, but
no, it's
kind of it's true, right? You got to really be accepting of who you are and the mistakes you made, just like you said. Learn, emit as much love as you can to somebody else, or not somebody else, but everything else that's going on in life, right?
I should do everything with love, everything with passion. You know what I mean? And love is shown like a lot of different ways. Like even you just made an example. It was like you did something wrong and you were an asshole to somebody. Like you can't change anything today that you did in the past. You can't heal that scar. Yeah. Only thing you can do is say sorry. Only thing you can do is apologize. Own up for yourself. Own up for the energy that you bring to the fucking situation. And that's it. You know what I mean? And you can't be like, oh, I'm such a fucking asshole. Be like, nah, I was an asshole in that moment. Yeah. I'm not an asshole. I was an asshole in that moment. Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? Little shit like that.
So one of the last things I do want to talk about with you, right? Your album has so many relatable songs, and that's almost all of your albums. But one of the songs that I found most relatable was "Get My Mind Right." Right? You talk about how the anxiety stops you from being able to communicate with people. You specifically say, I ain't know how to respond right now. Yeah. You know, and for me that's just so relatable because there's so many times where I got so much shit going on, right? and it's like, all right, I'm going to sleep. Or I open a message and I'm like, I'll get it later, but then I forget, right? So give us a little background on that song, man.
Yeah, that's definitely it right there. It's just get my mind right. I was basically in a place when I was writing that song. I was in that moment where I was trying to get my mind right. You know what I mean? It's trying to get my energy right, because when you're around people, you don't know, but you don't realize it, but it's such a transference of energy, and it's either they're taking your energy from you. You know what I mean? Like you're giving that, you're getting it, you're exchanging energy, but just being in a room full of people or just around people certain times, like it does require energy. Even sending a text, even holding a conversation, it requires energy. It requires you to, be on point and collect your thoughts. And it's like I feel like at that time when I was writing that song, I felt like there were so many people I was leaving left on red. You know what I mean? Like there was group chats that were just blowing up, and I was just like non-existent. Yeah, I would read them here and there, but it's like I'm not in the same vibe that you guys. I'm not gonna contribute. I can't contribute anything to this conversation. You know what I mean? Just trying to sit there and just collect my thoughts. And sometimes anxiety, it does get to the point where like, yeah, you're immobile. You don't have energy for anything else but to sit there and think about how you don't want to think about what you're thinking about right now. You know what I mean? Or there's just certain situations. And for that song, it was just like, yeah, man, I'm just trying to get my mind right now. And my fault if you're the one hitting my line right now. Like, I'm sorry if you're trying to get this interaction from me and get this energy from me that I cannot give you right now, because I can't even give myself the energy to get up off the couch or out of my bed. You know what I mean? I can't give my energy right now to fucking even cook for myself. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm sorry that you're not getting what you need from me, but I need to get what I need from you first before I could give you anything, type thing.
And it's funny as hell because we were just talking about it, right? How when I text you sometimes I'm like, damn, that dude doesn't have the energy right now. He needs to get his mind right.
Yeah.
But
and like I said, that's one of the reasons why I made the song too. Where like if you listen to it and you're somebody I haven't spoke to in a while, or maybe you're one of those people that I did leave on red or didn't get a chance to be like, hey, I'm sorry I didn't get you. You know what I mean? If you hear that song, you realize it. You know what I mean? And I feel like not too many people are willing to give that transparency. Everybody's always, oh, I'm sorry I didn't get your text. Oh, I'm sorry I'm just seeing this now. You know what I mean? Like, who hasn't gotten that reply? Nobody wants to just be straight up and be like, yo, I didn't have the energy to respond to you, nigga. Like, nothing against you, nigga. I wasn't there. You know what I mean? And I feel like people need to offer that perspective more, and I feel like also people should be more open to accepting that perspective too. Because I feel like a lot of times you hit somebody up and they don't hit you back, and it's like, oh, fuck this nigga. Well, what was he doing? What is he going through? What is he, you know what I mean? You have no idea what this man's actually dealing with. All you know is that you reached out to him and he wasn't hitting you back, and it's just like, you want to be like, fuck this nigga. It's like, nah, we should have more compassion with each other. How about the follow-up text? Be like, hey, bro, everything good? You know what I mean? Like, those type of things, those type of conversations we need to enable and make sure, like, if you're a friend, make sure, like, we're not just being friends and acquaintances to do something, to get up and go somewhere. Like, hey, bro, you good? I'm hitting you up, you ain't hitting me back. Is everything okay? And I feel like people shy away from that part of the conversation and just want to cancel people. Yeah. So it's like when I was doing that song, I was like, man, like, don't mean I ain't fucking with you. Don't mean I don't fuck with you. It's just like, right now ain't the time. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Yeah. Hit me again or I'm going to hit you back. You know what I mean? But don't cut me off just because I ain't responding. Like, man, I'm going through shit. And I'm sure you're going through shit.
Everybody. Yeah. Everybody's going through something in life.
Exactly.
And it's impossible to really understand, right? And thinking about it, it's impossible. Just like we said earlier, it's impossible to understand the true purpose of life, right? Because I don't understand why I got anxiety. You don't understand why you got it.
Well, I understand why I got it, and that's the thing is, when you feel these feelings, you have to self-reflect. You have to ask yourself why. What is making me anxious about this situation? Sometimes it has nothing to do with the situation. Sometimes it has to do with just how you were brought up and how you were taught to just perceive certain things. So yeah, this situation is triggering these emotions from over here where you saw this or felt this, blah, blah, and you got to tell yourself, this ain't this. Yeah. You know what I mean? You have to learn how to detach certain emotions from the situation, because everything's going to be anxious because you know the reality of certain things. You know, you have foresight as an adult to see how shit can play out given a certain situation or a certain decision. But you got to know, like I said, just be present and understand that and don't give into it. If you're anxious, don't just be like, I'm anxious. I need to chill the fuck out. Hold on. Have that self-awareness, that thought of just like, but it takes knowing yourself. You know what I mean?
And maybe that's the purpose, right? Maybe the purpose is just to understand who you are as a person, taking that time to sit and reflect, taking that time to meditate, or just really understanding where you come from, you know, like we've talked about in the previous episode, you know, understanding your origins. There's so many different takes on what the purpose of life is, right? And hey, yours was live, love, learn, and
Laugh.
And you definitely got a lot of bangers on that album.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
So, I mean, thank you for watching, guys. I appreciate everybody. Welcome to the new set. And go check out my boy Arigon 121 on IG.
Preposterous. State of Mind 121. Please go listen. Stream.
Take a look in the mirror through vision that's clearer. See how far I came. Man, I can't deny it. Been feeling on fire, but burning in vain. Been rolling them up while I'm pouring them up.
This
I'm in
is
no
Sad Boy Radio.
pain. Trying to keep up a front, I don't feel it's enough, but be damned if I can.